We're going to be looking at a video here from a guy named StyxHexenHammer666. I get a lot of questions about this guy. My answer to people who ask me about this guy is usually he's just a Trump rationalizer. But let's put that aside for now and let's look at this, war on facts that he presents and just massive stupidity. Let's get into it.
All right, everyone, it's time to lay it out there, plain and simple. I don't care about the Iran deal, and I don't care about the Iran deal withdrawal. It's my opinion that we will not be attacking Iran. If we did, I would strongly oppose it. I would oppose Trump even continuing on as president if we got into a war with Iran.
So the fact that he says he doesn't care not only is just massively lacking any sort of context whatsoever in the situation, but also when he says he doesn't care, it really shows you how much of a Trump rationalizer this guy is. He doesn't really give a fuck about what's going on. Essentially, what is supposed to make this guy unique, because nobody's looking for a Rush Limbaugh on YouTube, right? I mean, technically you could say Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder do that, but they're now edgelords with certain stuff. But the whole thing that's supposed to be special about this guy is that basically he has different mixed opinions. So, he's not in a neocon, he's someone who's not a warmonger. But when it really comes down to it, he just ends up supporting whatever the fuck Trump does. So you say you don't care about the Iran deal, even though the Iran deal is made to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, which is in the best interest of the entire world. But not only that, but he lacks massive context as to what is going on in the global geopolitical world. So the fact is that Netanyahu has been wanting to go to war with Iran in Syria for a while now. They've gotten really close to it prior to this, and just, a week ago we had some really crazy stuff going on there. And so the, just sort of omission of that and the lack of thought about that in any way, shape, or form is very stupid, because if you know anything about the U.S. and Israel, you know that they're very closely tethered together, especially what Trump is doing. He's basically doing the bidding of Benjamin Netanyahu here. And essentially what is dangerous about this, if you're someone who's anti-war and you are somebody who's talking about the Iran deal, you should be for it, because basically with this Iran deal, we'll get into some bullshit that he says later that's just factually incorrect. But this Iran deal is really something that would 100% prevent us from ever having a conflict or going to war with Iran, assuming that they cater to what they say. They, fall through on what they say. They come through, and they have. And so why Israel is so adamant about us not having the Iran deal is because he wants that tethering removed, so that when they go to war, they want the possibility of at least some aid or assistance or some sort of war interrelations with the United States to help them. And the lack of that context is ridiculous, because our support for Israel, as any rational person will tell you, has almost been, just relentless support for them. We give them money every year, and we support virtually everything they do. And now Donald Trump is doing the bidding of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel.
Because it could mean World War III. I think most people understand that. Iran is one of Russia's closest allies. If we were to ever attack Iran directly, I don't think that Russia would tolerate that. It'd look a little bit aggressive, I think. I think they would assume that it was about them more than it was about Iran in the first place. Now, plus, it's more likely that Israel and Iran will end up in a war at some point. Israel would wipe the floor with them. Israel would certainly take heavy damage from Iran's non-nuclear missiles, but, Israel has over 100 hydrogen bombs. That's more than enough to basically blanket and pockmark the entire fucking country of Iran. The Iranians know this. They can say death to America and chant and burn flags all they want. Look, that's not an act of war. Neither is, by the way, ripping apart this deal an act of war.
Okay, so now you see there he mentions the Iran-Israel situation, but then doesn't seem to mention that will have massive ramifications for the United States, because, again, and he lacks the basic analysis of intention of Netanyahu and his opposition to the Iran deal, and doesn't understand that, holy shit, he's opposing this because he wants help in the war against Iran, and the guy who's supposed to be anti-war is now supporting the pull-out of this deal, which is ridiculous. And also, his analysis of the war between Iran and Israel is very dumb as well, because it becomes this idea of, okay, they can crater Iran, so that's how the war would pan out. Or it's essentially this dismissal of war, which is the idea that it's never going to happen, which is so ridiculous. The idea that Israel and Iran, which have gotten really close to fighting each other, would never have a war is utterly ridiculous, and it's intellectually lazy and dishonest at the same time. It's both. But and then of course he says they can chant death to America, etc., etc. But he doesn't mention the massive double standard that he's playing into now, which is, why don't you mention all the Republicans who have called for bombing Iran, whether it be John McCain or Michelle Bachmann or Lindsey Graham or whoever the fuck else that says bomb Iran. We have John Bolton who said to bomb Iran, who's this national security advisor to Donald Trump, and we now have Mike Pompeo who says that they're the biggest threat in the world, who is the Secretary of State, and this guy continues to support Donald Trump.
The deal doesn't even do anything. It was just Obama's way of handing them a bunch of money as a bribe, hoping that they wouldn't shout so many death to the U.S. chants in the streets for the rest of his presidency to make it look like he was competent. That's ultimately what the fucking Iran deal was.
Okay, so this is just where it goes completely off the rails, because now what you're doing is you're no longer even talking about analysis any longer. You're just denying fact. And it's a really big struggle when people try to comment on something that they haven't even read the first couple pages of, because this literally, what I'm about to read to you, is on the second page of the Iran deal. So when you haven't read the Iran deal yourself, but you're commenting on it, it's going to be very problematic. But we're going to go into, this is no longer opinion anymore, this is facts. We're getting into real facts. There's no opinion whatsoever. Here's what the Iran deal itself states. It says, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, will be requested to monitor and verify the voluntary nuclear-related measures as detailed in this JCPOA. The IAEA will be requested to provide regular updates to the Board of Governors and as provided for in this JCPOA to the UN Security Council. All relevant rules and regulations of the IAEA with regard to the protection of information will be fully observed by all parties involved. So, as it states there, right there, on the second page, mind you, of the deal, something that he's commenting on but hasn't read himself, is that the International Agency of Atomic Energy would go in, and they would be the people who go in and actually go in and check to see if they're enriching their uranium up to a certain amount. Which is, it's just not, this is no longer opinion. This is just fact. I'm reading you the fucking deal itself verbatim. I'm reading it to you verbatim. So it's not based on honor. In fact, the Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, who, yes, Donald Trump appointed him. So this guy's favorite guy, who he's defending here and is, I don't give a shit about the Iran deal. Stop coming at me with that shit. Because he appointed him. James Mattis said it was written with an undertone of the idea and sentiment that Iran was going to cheat. So it's essentially, as foolproof as possible. And so it's not, and the other part of this is, he's doing a lie by omission and really just dishonesty and disinformation here, because no, Obama didn't just give them a bunch of money. What he did is he froze sanctions that gave them their own money back, because we withheld that money from them. We gave them their own money back by releasing sanctions. And then what we do is we go, okay, now you are going to agree with us that the IAEA will be able to come in. They will inspect your nuclear facilities. This is not an honor-based system. They will come in and inspect your nuclear facilities to check to see whether or not you are enriching uranium to, a level where you can get nuclear weapons. And they report it, and the day after Bibi Netanyahu came out saying some bullshit, giving his dumbass presentation, it was complete bullshit, the IAEA came out and said, yeah, no, that's not true, dude. Like, you're wrong. Like, they came out and debunked him because they're the fucking agency that goes in and actually inspects. And this is what I'm saying is not opinion, this is fact. It's literally what I just stated to you is the second page of the Iran deal itself, stating what it does. And on top of that, the Secretary of Defense that Donald Trump appointed himself to be a Secretary of Defense, explaining how it's so massively written to make sure that it's foolproof.
I think anyone in DC actually thinks Iran's trying to get a nuke because they know it'd be suicide. They would immediately get hit by the Israelis if they ever developed a nuclear. How are they going to test a nuclear weapon? As they conduct a test, what happens? The next day, Tehran is a crater. That's what would happen. Israel would say, it's unacceptable, not going to happen, we're attacking them, anyone that tries to get involved will attack you too, fuck off. That's what would end up happening. I'm not worried about the Iranians.
This analysis is just plainly dumb and almost elementarily stupid because basically what he's trying to say here is Iran's not going to get a nuke because if they get one, Israel's going to nuke them off the map? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's this, I don't know, how have you not heard of mutually assured destruction? Have you not heard of MAD? Do you know any basics of any sort of diplomacy or geopolitical relations or anything dating back to the Cold War at all? You've never heard of mutually assured destruction, never heard of MAD. The dangerous situation would be them having nukes, because then we're going to be in this sort of nuclear race that can raise tensions. But the idea that Iran's not going to get nukes. They're not going to get nukes because if they do, Israel's going to wipe them off the map. That's what you're worried about? That makes no fucking sense whatsoever, because if they hit them, Iran's going to hit Israel. It's mutually assured destruction is an elementary concept to understand. Two countries have nukes. Neither are going to attack each other because they both have fucking nukes and they will hit each other, and there's mutually assured destruction in which there won't be in a situation like that. So this is just a stupid analysis that makes no sense whatsoever. But this guy's just a Trump rationalizer, and it's so embarrassing that I don't even know what to say about this guy because he's such a moron.